welcome. We have an outstanding guest with us today, and I'm going to introduce him to you in just a moment. I know everybody's anticipating this podcast today. But before we do, we just want to talk about the Pressing the Limits podcast, who it's brought to you by. First of all, ZionMissionaryChurch.net. And this is a place where you can listen, watch messages, share prayer requests, or even plan a visit. So you need to check that out. Then also by NeuroPowerSource.com. And this is resources for your mind, your body, and your spirit. And there's discount codes on there right on the front page of all the equipment and biohacking gear that I use. And it's soon to have articles and other great information to encourage you along your journey. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. Barry Horowitz is our guest today, Mr. Technical. He is a professional wrestler who wrestled in the WWE, the WCW, the GWF, as well as many other promotions. He has appeared on notable pay-per-views, including SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, as well as many national televised wrestling programs. He has numerous championships and titles, too many for me to list right here. And besides his wrestling career, he is also a sports nutritionist. So welcome to the show, Mr. Technical, Barry Horowitz.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. I'm glad to be on your show, and I am in this interview, I'm going to press the limits to the max.
That's awesome. Love it.
Love it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You know, I've got some questions that, guys who have done it all, because you have been in every area. You have done lots of different territories. You've been on the indie scene. You've been there and done that. And I kind of like to get some of the listeners to understand how things have changed. Breaking into the business was much different than what it is today and when you started. And so can you share with us how you got started in the business and how much training was involved?
Sure, of course. Well, first of all, I started in my hometown of St. Petersburg, Florida. And at the ripe old age of probably about 15 years old, I got the bug bitten, and a lot of people, I'm sure there's a lot of guys at 15, I want to be a football player, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, but when I'm set on something, and I was set, I don't relinquish the hold. And I was set on being a professional wrestler, but at least I guess I was young enough to realize it and surrounded myself with people similar to me and actually knew more and much more mature than me about, you got to pay your dues. I want to be a pro wrestler and, do this backyard scene and stuff like that. That's fine. You got to pay your dues. But I was more interested in the amateur background, which I did. I started at a youth center in St. Pete, progressed through high school, won state, went to college at FSU, which is a much rougher area than your collegiate wrestling and your high school wrestling when you progress towards NCAA and AAU in the college ranks. And I just, I was concerned about training my body and getting a pedigree and getting a resume built. And then it was very hard to break in pro wrestling back then. I mean, even before my era, it was even worse probably. But, it was very kayfabe. And, you can get your leg broken. You could get a lot of things done. You got to want it. But I was fortunate in my eyes, and I may be biased, but I think I was trained by the best in the world, bar none. I'm sure there's other listeners, other wrestlers out there. They'll probably argue with that, but that's fine. I'm sticking to my guns. Professor Boris Malenko. Mm-hmm. Between him and his sons and Karl Gotch and Karl von Stronheim and other various guests that came to our gym, it was great. I'm glad that I was taught the way they taught me. And I trained for about a year and a half, 3 to 4 days a week, 3 hours at a pop, 104 degrees in a mattress factory in Florida, 40 degrees in the winter, and a part-time job, and training with the weights. So definitely built the foundation of Barry Horowitz. Not the house, just the foundation. The rest of the house, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the attic, and so forth, that's getting polished, as what we say. And that's going on the road and traveling with different people and just keeping your mouth shut and listen. Watched a lot of film, to perfect my craft. Different holes I didn't know or I wasn't taught or somebody didn't show me. I could learn by visually watching it 100 times. That was that's the opening of the door. Of course, it progresses on, and I will go into much more length when hopefully my book comes out next year, and I will go on in length. So, fire away with anything else.
Well, I love that. And back then, just let me ask you this. Did they used to stretch you? You know what I'm saying? Like, give you the test. I think there's a new generation that doesn't understand that there was some testing that went into it to see if you really had the guts to make it through.
Well, I've met in my travels, which I've been doing lately, is mostly meet and greets, amateur and professional instruction, and I'm actually pursuing a coach's job with a major federation. Maybe one of these federations will wake up and smell a coffee and realize you don't have to test me, or I've been around over 30 years. So, I don't want to go on a rant with that one because there's some guys in some of these schools that don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and I'm not downing them. I'm being factual and honest. It's not jealousy. It's not bitching or griping. I'm just calling it like it is. And then some of these schools have some really good trainers, phenomenal. And it's not all about promos and stuff like that. That's last on the list of priorities. Build that body, train with your, master your craft.
Yeah, I love that. And then once you do get into the federations and you get that career going, life on the road is something that is really unique in professional wrestling. The fact that you guys travel together and you shared about, learning, just listening, everything that was going on. What was life on the road like, and do you have any good road stories?
Well, sure. Let's back up the train a little bit. Remember when I said when I do these meet and greets and I meet young guys? Now, a lot of them are respectful and shake my hand and whatnot, and then you got the ones that, you're just Barry Horowitz, you're not Hulk Hogan, or you're not Shawn Michaels, so they got that attitude. Right there, you got a big strike in my book. Right there, I'm calling you a mark, because you're a mark for yourself, and you need to get some respect, and you need to respect me. Because I got more shower time than they got lifetime. So I don't care if you're somebody's son. I don't care if your dad's a promoter. I don't care if your dad was an ex-wrestler. Have some respect. I don't care if it's make-believe or BS. Have some respect, and I've always did it. You did that with Malenko or Karl Gotch, you would get stretched. You'd walk in there at 5'8" and leave at 6'3".
Yeah, I bet.
So that's what they need, a little attitude adjustments here and there. But I think if you do it now, they'll cry or you're too rough on me. They don't know what rough is. It needs to be rough. Like the late, great Dr. Death, Steve Williams said, hey, wrestling ain't ballet, bro. And it isn't. Or everybody could be a professional wrestler. Everybody could be Hulk Hogan. Everybody could be making tons of money and wrestling at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
So that's my little rant on that. As far as road stories, I got too many, guys, and some you can't even air.
I'm sure.
so they're good stories, though. They're fun. I mostly traveled alone, and if I did travel with people, it was people that are similar to myself. I would travel with, I wouldn't have a problem traveling with Barry Darso or Demolition or John Nord or Nails or Jimmy Powers. I surrounded myself with non-troublemakers. I'm not into the, when I leave my house to go to a show or I'm going on a week or whatever, I prepare. It's almost like a shoot, but not totally. I mean, you get on that plane, it's not time to spend money. No, it's time to, you got to get there, you got to land, you got to get a rent-a-car, you got to get a room, you got to hit the gym, you got to be on time, you got to go over your matches, You got to get that mindset. It's not just, okay, let's go out to dinner, let's spend money, I'm not there for that. Get back to the room, a little HBO. I got to get to bed, man. I got things to do the next day. I may have to be at the town early. I may be first match. I may be second match. You don't know. You got to treat it. That's how you go from good to great. Keeping all those T's crossed and I's dotted. There's, like Bob Backlund said, you don't want to be over possessive, but you don't want to be under. So you got to keep it in the middle. You know how hard it is to mediate the middle? It's like a balancing act, but I strive for it.
Well, speaking of that, let's just talk about that for a moment. You talk about all that goes into a match. I think people don't really appreciate, having to have gym time and you got to go tan, all these different things.
Right.
What did you do to prepare for a match physically and mentally, and especially something that was going to be aired on TV? And what did that day look like?
Well, first of all, as far as training-wise, I was always lifting. Cardio is important, stretching, isometrics, warming up properly. That's real important, and then you got your cardio, and then you got your ring cardio, which is like right now, as far as being in shape and so forth for the ring, I'm fine. I probably have ring rust, but see, I don't need to worry about that no more. I've paid my dues. I've been in the ring in and out over 20 years full time. I've got injuries and whatnot, and for my age and how I look, I'm 225 pounds right now. I'm 6 foot. I'm 8% body fat. I mean, I'm all natural. I train hard. I eat well. I sleep good. And I live a clean life, and I've always have. And I believe it pays off because in the outcome, when they bring in these legends, these so-called legends on TV, when I'm sitting at home and watching them, and I'm going, how come I'm not there? Yeah, it's a bit of a politic game because if you go around and ask, what about Barry Horowitz? I'm the most disrespected man in the business. Now, I'm being sarcastic, but I kind of am. It's almost like, what? Like, I can understand if they never did nothing with me. I mean, I've been on every major federation but ECW, and that's because the owner doesn't like me. I don't know what his problem is, and I really don't care. And ECW is not for me anyway. So, as far as other companies, they've all treated me good. I've got to say one of the kindest, best promoters ever is Otto Wantz for, I think it's called CWA in Austria.
Wow.
He's phenomenal promoter. Phenomenal. He doesn't care who you are. If you look good and train and respect him and work hard, I mean, that's all he cares about. That's it. I mean, he's treated me unbelievable, and that's important to me.
Yeah, and the accomplishments, if you look at all the different titles that you've held with different promotions, again, I could not even read all of those on the air. The list is so long, from light heavyweight championships to heavyweight championships to hardcore championships. I mean, you really have done it all. What do you consider out of all those? What is your favorite, or you would say, I'm most proud of blank? Your greatest accomplishment,
I'm most proud of defeating Mike Graham for the Florida heavyweight title in both of our hometown. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Mike Graham. Again, rest in peace, Mike Graham. Phenomenal wrestler, athlete, human being, a true journeyman in the ring, a true babyface. His father was awesome. I didn't get to know him as well as I wanted to. In the Florida territory, here I am, a kid, daydreaming of all this, and I get to fulfill it. I get to be where the TV was, 106 North Albany and Tampa, where they filmed, and the Bayfront Center and the Lakeland Civic Center. All of these I bought tickets for. Not only as a wrestling fan, but to watch and observe. See, there's a difference, and there's a lot of wannabes out there, and they think they could do it. Believe me. You get slammed or suplexed on these rings, and you're just an average guy. You're not even waking up properly the next morning.
You know what? And I'm glad that you mentioned that. I want to talk about this for a second. How has the ring changed over the years? Like when you started, I have a feeling it is much different today than it was then.
Not too much. Some rings are softer, some are harder. I mean, I've taken bumps in a boxing ring.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest ring I've ever taken a bump in is the Dallas Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, where the Von Erichs made the Dallas Sportatorium famous. That ring, by the way, to this day, is bolted into the cement in the floor. It does not move. So when you watch their show back in the day, and even GWF, you're not going to see the bumps that you would see in All Elite Wrestling and whatnot and these other major promotions. It's pure concrete taking bumps on it. It doesn't give. It doesn't make a noise. It's a thud.
Yeah, and
so,
that place is legendary.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's legendary for what happened, but also just the environment of that place, I think, is just crazy
definitely.
To see the videos and to hear the stories.
Sure.
To think about that you got to experience all these different venues. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I know. It is pretty cool. I think the only thing that I didn't fulfill in my career really is I really wanted to wrestle in Hawaii and Australia, which both of them came to my attention, but they got postponed or something happened. And I always wanted to wrestle at the Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes. Now that's a Bass Pro Shop.
Never got to do that. What's that?
They've turned that into a Bass Pro Shop. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, my God.
You know,
well,
after
that dream is under.
Yeah, I mean, after they had that, you know, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, that legendary event, and now it's turned into a Bass Pro Shop.
Well, I did get to wrestle in the Mid-South Coliseum, and actually, me and Chick Donovan were the Southern Tag Team Champions, and actually, we won the belts there against Rocky Johnson and Soul Train Jones.
And Rocky Johnson, for those that don't know, is, you know, so that's what I'm trying to say is you have worked with what I would call, you know, wrestling royalty. You know,
a plethora.
Like you start throwing these names out.
Yeah.
One of the cool things I want to talk about that people probably can't understand, and I have always wondered what this feels like. What is going through your mind and your body? What is the feeling when you're standing in gorilla position waiting to go out for TV for a match?
Okay. Very good question. Excellent. You're a little bit nervous. You're going over the match in your head. You're, like I said, you don't want to go overboard. You'll mess up, but you don't want to go, okay, I'll go out there and do this, which I've seen guys do that. I mean, I've seen guys a hot dog right before, you know, one of their matches. You see some of these guys, they treat it like a cartoon or a carnival, which I don't agree with. And most of these guys never had professional sports in their life like basketball or baseball or football or amateur wrestling. They've never did it, so, you know, they don't really know. You know, I just don't believe in that. You know, there's, you know, you want to be almost perfect. But that gorilla position, yeah, you want to be, you got your gear on, you better be ready or you're going to get screamed at by Monsoon. And it's not cool. It's embarrassing, but you do your job. You're there. I mean, if my match is in 5 minutes, I'm there 5 minutes before 5 minutes. I'm ready, okay? And when they say go, you go. So there's a little nerves there. That's just normal nerves. Again, you don't want to be too nervous.
So there's that feeling before. Now, what does it feel like knowing you've had a great match? You know, things have really gelled coming back to Gorilla on the way out.
Oh, man, it's like, all right, this is over. It was TV. I'm so happy. I did my job. I did my work. I fulfilled, you know, what I wanted to do, my obligation. I had a great match. It's almost like a high. I mean, I remember after I wrestled Skip in the Pittsburgh Civic Center, the Igloo at SummerSlam, I didn't come down emotionally or my mindset for an hour. I didn't take my boots or trunks off for an hour. That's how amped I was still. I could have went another 30 minutes with Skip. So it's a great feeling. And here's a thing, a little secret here. When you're talking about mindset, this is what I would do. After my match, you know, you think about it a little bit, you talk and whatnot. If I was alone in a rent-a-car and I'm leaving, for instance, Pittsburgh, and I'm going to the hotel, but I've got to go to, let's just say, I don't know, Wheeling, West Virginia, a 2-hour drive. I would go over my whole match from beginning to end. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you not repeat? Did you get a drop kick in? Did you get a headbutt in? Did you get a drop toe hold in? Did you get your double underhook suplex in, your three-quarter grapevine, without repeating anything? I never repeat. I don't like that. I mean, you could throw a couple of forearms, a couple of punches, but not 20 punches to the face. It's, first of all, it's stupid. And no cartoon stuff in the ring. Mm-hmm. And did you get your pat in the back? Did you do it? Just went over everything. And then the next night, that match was gone. There's another match. Oh, I'm not working his arm. I'm working his leg. I'm working his back. I'm working his neck. So, and every time Barry Horowitz, the people would see me, this is why I think they liked me. They know I'm a true athlete, a true wrestler, a true pro wrestler, because they know it. They know it by my ring gear. They know it by my the way I articulate in the ring, the way I move in the ring, the moves I do. They know a true veteran or a journeyman. Absolutely. And that's what I wanted them to know, not just a repeat artist. There's nothing wrong with getting your signature moves in. There's a lot of things I like to do that I repeat. There's nothing wrong with that. But show you got versatility. Show you got a plethora of holds, submissions, cover the man, hook the leg, try to pin him. That's what it's about. You're trying to win. Pin the man or submit him.
I love it.
Yep.
Well, talking about this, and you don't have to reveal this or not, because different guys had different methods, and we're in a different era where people are more open about this. Did you, like, when you planned out a match, did you have a general idea? I know some guys, like, they call it in the ring. Were they kind of a general idea of what they're going to do, or did you script it out?
Nah, general. Yeah, I never wanted to go, script it out. I've heard of guys writing stuff down. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I'm not knocking it. It's just not my way, and I think if I ever did that in Malenko, I'd get stretched again. Mm-hmm. But, talk it over. And then there's sometimes where it was, hey, separate dressing rooms, couldn't get over there, couldn't do it, call it in the ring. And there's not too many guys that could do that. Like if you called me and said, I'm just going to use this for an example. Okay, Barry, we're in Halifax, Nova Scotia at the Forum. Owen Hart's in the other room. We can't. Okay, send over to finish. I'll call it in the ring. Owen could call it, and so could I, and we're going to bring the house down, guaranteed.
Well, you're both great technicians, and that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody would be.
Owen Hart was a true wrestler. He was one of my favorites of the Hart family. Nothing against anybody. I mean, I love Stu Hart. I've met the whole family, Brett. I've met all his brothers. I first met Stu Hart Jr. in Puerto Rico in 1981. Who would know that years later that I would see him again, and who would know years upon years later, that we'd be the main event at Survivor Series in the Boston Gardens, and Barry Horowitz is the Red Knight.
Mm. Yeah, and see, we talk about guys like you guys, there's such technical giftedness, from paying the price, but also the athleticism. You could call it in the ring and nobody would be the wiser. That's the true pro. You can call it in the ring,
sure,
but nobody knows, and I just love that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, talk about Owen, and like I said, Barry, you wrestled the who's who of wrestling. Who was, and I'm just curious because different guys, there's different workers have. How should I say? This is the easiest way I'll put it out there. Who was the stiffest worker you ever faced in the ring?
Oh, wow.
Because different guys, handle differently.
I worked with stiff guys because some like to work stiff, some were reckless stiff, which is not good. That doesn't mean, for instance, what's his name, Vader. Mm-hmm. Okay, first of all, he's a bully. Second of all, if you think that's cool being tough and knocking people around, well, it's an art to be a pro wrestler. What you want to make it do is look like Vader's killing you, but feel like you're working with Bobby Eaton or Arn Anderson or Ricky Steamboat or Johnny Weaver or Ric Flair or Bob Orton Jr. The list goes on and on. That's a true artist. If you just want to lay it in, well, hey, tough guy, pack your bag, go over and see Dana White, sign a match for UFC. You'll get your ass beat in 15 seconds, tough guy.
Yeah, see, you hear these stories of the guys that were real stiff workers, and then the guys like you're mentioning, the guys that that you always knew you're going to be taken care of in the ring. You could trust these guys.
The stiff, it's not cool. If you think that's cool, it's not cool, and you're going to get receipts. Working snug is a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I like working snug, so forth, here and there. Probably you work snug in All Japan Wrestling, and probably that's the stiffest I've been hit is in All Japan.
Yeah, when I watch some of these matches, it's like you can just tell there's, like I said, wrestling is art. It really is.
Right.
And
exactly.
To see how we're having, this whole progression. Who was your favorite opponent? And secondary, what was your favorite match?
Oh, God. Whew, that's hard. That really is hard. I mean, I've had a lot of favorite opponents. I mean, Brad Armstrong, Scott Armstrong, Tim Horner, Reno Riggins, Ben Jordan, Jerry Lynn, Owen Hart and Skip are way up there. Marty Jannetty. I liked wrestling Sean. God, there's just, there's a lot of, and as far as my favorite match, I don't know. I don't know if it would be the Mike Graham Florida title match or the Skip at SummerSlam. I mean, I've had, so many different matches. I've had matches with indie workers that were in the backwoods of Kentucky or Alabama and never got a chance or a break. It's just a shame. I mean, it's just the way – sometimes it's attitude or personality or your progression you don't know how to pursue. And then some of it is lack of gym time too. So you got to be the whole package. I'm not saying to be jacked up and gassed up and roided up. I think that's kind of leaving us in the professional wrestling business. It's I'm not saying just to be fit. Also, I mean, it's a little bit, fit. Got to have a little bit of size on you, and plus it helps absorb the bumps and whatnot. You don't want to break apart like a Lego in the middle of the ring. So that's my outlook on that.
Well, yeah, because there's wrestling cardio, and then there's regular cardio. You got to be able to go in the ring. I don't think a lot of people understand, and this is somehow things have changed too. Sometimes in the house shows back in the day, you'd have these 30-minute matches or 60-minute time limit matches. And the conditioning, what it takes, tell us about that. What kind of conditioning does it take to be able to pull off one of those?
I mean, the conditioning is just, from you training, also pacing yourself, rest, I mean, and ring time. I mean, that's what it's about. That's all it is, and it comes naturally when you're, wrestling every night. And some of my matches were fast, some were slow. I mean, they were never super slow or boring, but I'm painting a different story than some. And then some people are lucha libre style, bing, 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 bing. Sometimes too fast, people don't absorb because you got to slow down for the wrestling fan. You could be fast in UFC and boxing. I mean, it's a shoot, but we're a different animal, so you gotta adjust the speed thermostat there, if you will.
I love that because one of the things that we always sometimes miss out on is that wrestling, the actual match, is telling a story. And I think some people, they don't realize that there's a story to be told. And when you're talking about some of the guys that you had really good chemistry with, you can see how that works and what's trying to be portrayed there. Let me ask you, what was unique? You worked in so many territories, but tell me some uniqueness about the territories that you worked in.
As far as?
Like when you're talking about the difference between, we're talking about the Sportatorium, so we're talking about differences between WWE, WCW, GWF. You worked for so many different territories. What was unique about the ones that you wrestled in?
Yeah, I would say cream of the crop is the WWF as far as, I mean, when I was working for Vince, he was a billionaire. Now he's a millionaire. Now he's a billionaire. But, I mean, it was always, first-class catering at Monday Night Raws and the Superstars, the different various shows, the WrestleManias. I was at one year I did the Slammies and an exotic beautiful hotel downtown New York City. I mean, everything is professional, and he's amped it up like quadruple at. I mean, he's right up there with Hollywood or NFL. There's no difference. Mm-hmm. There's none. When you got production, meetings and production people and people that are in wrestling and people that are in Hollywood, I mean, that's cream of the crop right there. I mean, WCW was good too, but I got to give it to WWF for, first class, as far as us traveling, the tour buses, like when we went to Italy or went to Germany or France, and the 5-star hotels and the food and everything was just, it was great, and packed houses. I mean, you thought you were at a Garth Brooks concert there.
Awesome. Any stories that you want to say about the GWF? Because that was a whole nother thing. That was a exciting time.
No, GWF was cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
Again, the ring was stiff, but I had some good matches with Sam Houston, Jerry Lynn, the handsome stranger, a.k.a. Marcus Bagwell. It's when I first met him, the Patriot, Del Wilkes. I mean, it was pretty cool. I liked the way they did it. It was a old school atmosphere as far as the structure of the building, the locker rooms, hotel accommodations, everything were fine. Restaurants, everything, the gym. I really enjoyed it. I think I was there for over a year, and I was one of the few people back in the day that I would wrestle GWF and then go back and work for Vince. Now you can't do that.
Yeah, and so what was the atmosphere like with the GWF, like with the fans? It seems like it was.
They were good. They were respectful. They were cool.
Because it just seems like the fans, they were so into it down there, and there was such a connection, and I just wondered about that.
Yeah, I think the fans are more respectful because they know pro wrestling. Now, some are still, I don't know, for lack of better words, some of them are ignorant, some of them are clueless. I mean, but the ones that they know they want to be entertained, they know good. If you watch, well, I'll just give this for an example. When you watch All Elite Wrestling, you could see the fans how they get into it and clap. They really appreciate it. Good technical wrestling or the flying through the air. They appreciate all that. They appreciate hard work. That looks good. That's good because the fans of 20 years ago they didn't know. Plus the internet clues them in on everything. So that has a lot to do with everything too. Yeah. If you're trying to hide something, you can't. Not from the wrestling fans.
Well, how did you come up with the pat yourself on the back gimmick? It's iconic, and the Hava Nagila theme coming in.
Well, that was given to me by the creative department in the WWF.
Okay.
That all was done by them, and they asked me, and I said, yeah, that's cool. I like it. And as far as the pat on the back, that happened in an amateur match. I did it by accident, which I was disqualified for doing that and reprimanded by my coach profusely. Yeah, that's what happened. So I put that in the holster, the back pocket, so to speak, left it there. And when I became a heel, I said, oh, my God, it's time to unravel this one. You got to use this. This is your gimmick. My gimmick is like, I remember Skip used to say this a lot, Chris Candido. I got no gimmick. He used to wear a shirt. I got no gimmick. I know how to wrestle. And I kind of like that because that was me. My gimmick is I'm a technical wrestler, but if you're going to pinpoint any gimmick, it's the pat on the back.
Yeah, I love that.
I
love the story.
I'm glad you said that because I got numerous phone calls from various promoters, podcaster. Sunday night, I guess there was a big pay-per-view in NXT, and one of my favorite amongst Gordon Soley and Jim Ross, Mario. I don't think I'm saying. I don't know how to say his name. Arulo. He used to be a wrestling announcer for Pride, and in Japan, and MMA in the MMA world. And I always thought this guy needs to go to a big organization, and they did sign him. I don't know why he got moved from Raw to NXT. In my eyes, probably he said something wrong, or he's just too good and they bumped him down, because he is a phenomenal announcer. And I guess he brought up my name, and somebody was patting themselves on the back, and I guess he said on live pay-per-view Sunday night, "Where's Barry Horowitz when you need him?"
That's cool. That's cool.
So it was cool, and I was getting numerous phone calls. It was on the internet. I didn't even know about it, and that was pretty cool of him to recognize me, since I've never met him. Because most people in the wrestling business or world, if they don't know who I am, well, something's wrong. And I'm not trying to put myself over as a glory hound, but come on now, folks. You know who I am. You just, there's certain people I don't know who they are. Maybe I haven't been keeping up or haven't been watching, so a guy could be new. He could be only in the wrestling business a year or two. I don't know him, or he used a different name.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like I said, you've wrestled who's who. You have done it all. That's how I was opening up, was like, you have been there, done that, and speaking of that, do you have any favorite stories or anecdotes you'd like to share about your career?
Oh, just as far as being around, like I said, traveling with all those people. I said Flair and Johnny Weaver, Sonny Fargo, Junkyard Dog, all these guys in their mindset of professional wrestling, Steamboat, Youngblood. You're just listening and you're absorbing and watching. Because in Crockett Promotions, in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in Charlotte, everybody on the card, especially the young guys, and that was me, first or second match, had to stay to the end and watch every match. So you take a quick shower and watch every match, which they do that in Japan to this day, I think in all Japan. They're not even allowed to shower. They've got to just towel off and get out there and watch every single match. You will learn that way. You will learn that way if you want to learn. You could watch a shitload of matches. You could watch this. You could do this. You could do that. But if you're not absorbing or don't want it, you're not going to be a good player. You're going to be substandard. And I don't like substandard. I want to be above that.
Yeah, and don't you think it's a matter of respect, too? Just,
Sure.
paying respect to the guys.
There's a lot of guys that are disrespectful, or they'll look at you like, what did you do, or stuff, and they don't realize you need to evaluate yourself. Take an ego check, and then this guy was too tough on me. So they don't have a clue. Tough it out, man. Tough it out. You don't have a clue. What do you complain? You're in the door. You know how many people are outside waiting? So shut up, listen, and take your bumps.
How did your faith impact your career, and how does it impact you now?
Oh, as far as, I don't know. I mean, there's various Jewish wrestlers, but you don't know it because, the only ones you really know is Goldberg, Barry Horowitz. But, Malenko was Jewish. There's a lot of Jewish wrestlers. You just didn't know about it. And they didn't push that type of gimmick. They may have lightly. I'm just proud to be Jewish, and I think I'm taken care of. I'm one of the chosen ones, so I'm flattered. So I don't let it get in my way. I don't forget it either, though. Mm-hmm. So that's how I look at that.
Yeah, I love that people are willing to, not only share their faith, but be, proud of their faith, and say,
sure.
Hey, this is who I am. This is what I believe, and letting people know this is who I am. And I think that's a powerful thing in our society today, to just be real with people and, let them know that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Do you see any young wrestlers today that stand out to you that you think could be big stars in the future, regardless of the promotion?
Do I
any ones that just stand out to you?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few actually. I mean, I don't watch the product constantly. I don't have time. And here's how I operate. When I'm flipping the channels and there's a promotion on, I don't care who it is, Ring of Honor, Impact, which I don't even see Impact no more. I don't know what's going on with that. But I judge the guy, how he looks, what he's doing. I could tell if he's green. The promos are important, but they're last on my list. I mean, they're important. You know, they draw money, and it's a good promo is pretty cool, the way you articulate it. But I watch guys that got a mixture. And there's a few in the WWE, but there's a lot that I noticed in this All Elite that got the technical, they got the background of the bumping. Never heard of these guys. So when I never heard of these guys or seen them, they can only come from two places. Well, really one place. They came from the Indies. That's where they came from. They just weren't trained at a school and put on TV. Maybe some of them, but most of them probably came from Ring of Honor or maybe even a backwoods promotion, who knows, and got noticed or knew somebody or got a tryout. But there is a lot. I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't do it per se. There's a lot of high flying in All Elite, almost every match, which I don't agree with. Everybody is doing a tope or a planche or jumping off. There's nothing wrong with that. But every match, it just makes it, you know, first of all, you're spoiling the people. They want to see it always. And then it doesn't mean nothing no more either. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because, again, you could have a hardcore match on the card. You could have women's. You could have midgets. So there's all different styles. I just lean towards mine because that's the style I like. I like technical wrestling. I like the Bob Orton Jr. type, or I like the Flair type, or the Steamboat type, or the wrestling heel type. You know, some of the UK guys are incredible workers. So are the guys from Germany. So there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as All Elite, they have gone back to old school. I've caught it so many times. They're doing spots and chain wrestling that I did 20 years ago. Yeah. And it's impressive. And then they're doing some high flying stuff, risk taking things that are incredible that I've never seen anywhere. Anywhere I've never seen. Nothing wrong with that. I don't like too much of that because too much too fast you lose the people, and too many false finishes I don't agree with either. I mean they're finishing people with death-defying things, and they're kicking out at two, and then they win with a small package or a sunset flip, which makes no sense. But then again, sometimes it does make sense because this is pro wrestling. So it's hard to differentiate stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think sometimes it loses effectiveness when everybody is doing continual flying. You know, and it's just like the whole thing. When somebody first went through a table back in the day, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah, no more.
When everybody goes through a table, it loses a little bit of that awe. So I'm with you on that.
Everybody's going through a table, the announcer's table, and the steps.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on now, change it up.
And you know, one of the things I liked about you and some of the other guys you're talking about, like Flair, is the expression was everything. You're telling a story with your body language too. It wasn't just about doing moves. You're telling a story with your facial expressions, all these type of things, and I think that sometimes is a lost art in itself.
Yeah, you're true baby faces. I mean, you know, Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, the Rock and Roll Express, Steamboat, Youngblood, Jack Briscoe. I mean, these are ultimate baby faces. These are making women cry at ringside. They believe them so much. They're not acting like a baby. They're just showing you this could happen. And, I mean, and if you watch UFC or if you watch a legit shoot wrestling match or fight, I mean, excuse me, you get into an armbar or a half Nelson or a poke in the eye by accident, I mean, you're down. I don't care if you're fifth-degree black belt and you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, you will go down.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, not everybody's Chuck Norris.
No.
So.
Well, I know that you went to college. One of the things you did is study nutrition in college, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sports nutrition.
Yeah, how has being a sports nutritionist, how has that enhanced not only your career but your life?
Oh, just incredible. Just a clean living and taking care of your body and longevity, your joints, your well-being. It goes hand in hand. There's so many guys that they may train with steroid or without, but they don't do the whole deal. They don't do the diet. You got to put down the Diet Cokes, drink your water. I mean, there's so many things. You got to get your rest. You know, you can't be taking painkillers and excessive alcohol. I mean, you just, you know, it's one or the other. You know, you just, you know, a true athlete, you know, in my eyes anyway, doesn't do that. And if he does, it's very moderate and there's nothing going to happen. But excessive, you're going to self-destruct. I mean, that's just common sense.
Yeah, and that was one of the great things about you being natural and still being able to carry that wrestler's physique. You know, I think that's something that definitely you should be proud of because, you know, that was one of the things. You know, you're always coming in, you're always in shape, you're always ready to go.
I tried my best, yeah, I still do.
Well, let's have a little lightning round here. All of these questions, they're only yes or no answers, okay?
Okay,
Unless you say, you know what, I got to add more on that. If you want to add more on that, that'll be awesome too. So, yes or no, you enjoyed most often being the heel?
Yes.
Being a Seminole is far better than being a Gator?
Yes.
You have wrestled in all 50 states?
Yes.
You once pinned Ken Shamrock?
Yes.
You were ever Doink the Clown?
I'm sorry?
Were you ever Doink the Clown?
No.
And the last one, would you consider wrestling again?
Yes.
Awesome. I know your last match was, 2013?
Well, to be honest, yeah, I mean, let me see, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. I think, I'm not positive on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did a little, it doesn't count, I did a little gimmick match in I forgot where it was back in July. It was their last match outside. I was on their first show. It's ironic. I was on their first show 20 years ago. I was on their last show, July of last year. Great Brian Costello, excellent promoter, good wrestler from the South Bend, Mishawaka area and the Notre Dame area, holds a unbelievable show outside in a baseball stadium. It's phenomenal. People are very respectful, and they were glad to see me and whatnot. We just did a little thing there. I was supposed to, I was dressed in kind of like not my usual ring attire. It was like hardcore. And I just went out there. It's on YouTube, and there was a mass wrestler out there. I told him I couldn't wrestle because I actually, sprained my kneecap a few months ago. That's just from wear and tear, and also heavy squats doesn't help. So it was inflamed. I really couldn't wrestle that night, and I explained it to the fans, and that was all a shoot and everything. And then, of course, you know, the guy wants to wrestle me, and I told him I can't do it, and I turned around, and he poked me in the eyes, and then he punched me, and then he went to slam me and dropped me behind him, and I put him in a rear naked choke and put him out. And then he was out, and I don't normally do this, but when a guy is out, you could do this. Otherwise, they do this on TV, and the guy just, took a hip toss or a snap suplex, and you're putting your foot on his chest. I mean, it's too cartoon for me. But when a guy is knocked out, you could do that. So he was out from the rear naked choke, and as they went 1, 2, I put my foot on his chest and patted myself on the back. 3.
That's awesome.
I thought that was appropriate for the situation.
I love that. I've actually been to that event several times, the Clash at the Cove.
Yeah.
And again,
it's awesome.
It's a great, because you actually get to interact with the wrestlers. And, it's true wrestling fans. You're not only going to be entertained, that that guys are going to give you their heart and their soul.
Oh, yeah. Those good matches that night. Bob Orton Jr. was there, Mario Mancini, Paul Roma, whatchamacallit was there, too. I haven't seen this man in over 20 years. I didn't even recognize him because he was a young boy back in All Japan. Dick Byers' son, Kurt. Now, we all know who Dick Byers is. He is the original sensational destroyer.
Yeah, and I think even like Coco Beware was there, too. I mean, it was guys that...
he wasn't there that night.
He was there several years before, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure there's a host of guys that were there.
He's a great promoter. Costello's the
Brian Costello's
the crippler.
awesome. He's a good guy, and he takes care of you guys. I mean, had a beautiful spread for us, catering, 5-star hotel, accommodations. The plane was great. The traveling was good. It was flawless. It was like being on vacation.
That's great. Well,
yeah.
What does the future hold for Barry Horowitz?
The future holds for Barry Horowitz his last want in the professional wrestling world is to be a coach for a major organization. I really think I have the resume, the background. I'm not saying I'm the greatest. I don't want to be the greatest. I don't want to bump anybody out of a job. I just want to participate. Why? Well, number one, it's my passion. Amongst my sports nutrition, it is my number one passion. And why, if you're in good shape and I'm still young enough, why would you just stay home and do sports nutrition when, I mean, financially I'm going to make quadruple at that in organizations and, only a couple times a week, but also something that I like, that I could help with young guys, that I contribute. I mean, it's almost a disrespect thing because I have contacted different people and there's really not an answer. It's really very disrespectful. Now, when I say all this, I could understand if I didn't make my mark in the pro wrestling world. I didn't work for major organizations. I wasn't on a contract. My 90% of my life and career, I didn't contribute and be loyal to the WWF, the WWE, Vince Sr. and Jr., just as a loyalty thing, when I've seen other people that haven't did half of what I did and still there, or making six figures or whatnot, and I'm going, what's this? And the bottom line is, somebody may not like you or it's politics. Because my resume speaks for itself. I don't need to be tested or trialed or anything. I mean, they may have a certain way of doing things, and you got to follow that. That I do understand. But there's certain things. I mean, I think I had one guy tell me, I won't mention names because I'm not into that. Not that I'm afraid. I'm not into that, and I'm not putting people over. You want me to put you over in anything? You pay me. I don't do that for free. I don't. Malenko was always taught you don't wrestle for free. Elvis wouldn't sing for free. I'm not wrestling for free. Tom Cruise doesn't act for free. Okay, so I'm not saying I'm all these people. I'm just saying I'm in that circle. I think the guy said to me, do you still watch wrestling now? Yeah, I don't watch it religiously, but you know your thing. It's not like I'm sitting at home and I got a regular job and I didn't go to the gym and I want to be a coach. No, I stay in shape constantly. If not, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And I think what he said to me, he says, do you know who our CEO is and our champion? And I said, what? First of all, how dare you? Who the hell are you? You've been in the business 20 years. You're the head trainer, and you're saying that to me? Who cares? Get me up to speed, bring me in, and let me know who your so-called champion is and your so-called CEO. But don't you want Barry to be on time, looking good, and teaching well, and fulfilling his obligation and being accountable and being a pro counts more to me than, do you know who our champion or CEO is? What are you, a mark? That was a really ignorant statement. So I have no use for people like that.
Well, I am hoping that you get this coaching career going because...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I owned a wrestling school at Reno Riggins in Kentucky for about a year. Mm-hmm. We did that, but we had to close it because we both got really busy getting booked, and it wasn't fair to our staff and the young guys that we were training. So, and the way I would be teaching is you got old school and new school. I mean, think about it now. When you got if you ever watch, I've got a passion also for NFL football. If you ever watch the pre-games and listen to Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, or even the new guys, Michael Vick, and these guys, they're both on the same. They use the same verbiage. It's the same thing. It could be 80 years later. A tackle is a tackle, or the way you're hitting, or the way you're on the offensive line. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And almost the same with pro wrestling. I mean, it does change, and there is different things. But old school and new school mixed is flawless.
Yep. Yeah, because I think, the business changes, but the craft doesn't. I would say the business changes, but the craft doesn't. And that's where I'm talking about. You have the craft. You know, how things are marketed, some of these things may change, but the technical craft of being a pro wrestler, that hasn't changed. And that's where your giftedness is, and we are pulling for you to get a coaching job.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So that's what I'm doing. I do my meet and greets. And I do some personal and private instructional, weight training and so forth. But I would love to be a part of an organization and give my, did you ever see when you'll see a new offensive coordinator, let's just say for the Patriots, and you go, where'd this guy come from? Well, he was a quarterback's coach for the Browns. They brought him in. Yeah, since we signed him, we're winning, and we're keeping this guy. See, it's the unsung heroes. That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't always have to be Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, or it could be a guy you don't know these guys like you should know them.
Yep.
See what I mean? And you could just tell in a few weeks when you're teaching and what, who knows? Some guys may think I'm going to take their spot. Well, they're insecure then. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, one last question. How can the listeners find out more about you? You talk about this book coming out.
Yeah.
And what you're doing. Well, people want to keep up on you and find out more. How can they do that?
The main thing of keeping up with Barry Horowitz is the internet, which I'm not a fan of, but it does help me. My Facebook page is pretty awesome. I will say that my cousin runs my Facebook, and the only reason is he's an IT man. He does this for a living. I don't. And I don't have time like I used to be on it. And I used to be on it 24/7 when I was working the Indies. So I actually pay him and another man to take care of it. So you're not actually talking to me. I'm not trying to pull a fast one over you. But he'll answer basic questions. Some people, hey, Barry, I used to go to high school with you. You doing all right? I'm doing good. Anything, pardon the pun, but any technical questions or stuff like that, they contact me, and I negotiate either a meet and greet or finances or what have you. I have the final say in that. So that's the big one. And if you just Google my name, you'll go into, I'm on the WWE site. Where are they now? Mm-hmm. I've had various interviews. That's mostly how you could do that. How I operate. And a couple of big things that are happening for Barry Horowitz is brand new on ProWrestlingTees.com. I have a brand new shirt that just arrived last week, and you can go to New Arrivals and check out my new shirt. Also, I will be inducted into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame this July. Looking forward to that. And also, in the coming weeks, I will be at the Warriors of Wrestling in Brooklyn, New York. I'll be at the huge, big event, 18, which is one of the biggest. That and WrestleCon is the biggest around. I will be at WrestleCon, WrestleMania week in, I think that's April. And I'll be at the big event in Elmhurst, New York. And I'm also at Big Time Wrestling in March and WrestleFest 2 in Albany, New York. So that's what's going on with me as of late. And you could check different websites, and my Facebook has all different things. I think it's even got an audio and visual of that thing that happened at NXT. It's posted already. So, but besides that, and the book coming out next year, that's how you get in touch with me. How you can keep up with me, excuse me.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for being our guest today.
I want to thank you. Great questions, you guys.
Well, thank you very much. So I want to thank our guest today was Barry Horowitz, and hopefully you can get in touch with him and find out all the amazing things that not only he's done, but the amazing things that are going to be happening in the future. I want to thank our sponsors, ZionMissionaryChurch.net and NeuroPowerSource.com. I also want to give a big shout-out to our podcast producer, Drew Kiespert, our video director, Jolynn Thomas. Be sure to rate us and subscribe to the Pressing the Limits podcast. And for more ways to watch and listen to this podcast, check out the Pressing the Limits podcast website.